HBs. This is Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two far-flung friends talk about a new romance novel each week. And this week, we've got a juicy one. We were so looking forward to America's Thanksgiving holiday that we had to celebrate in Romance Land, too. After all, the genre has given us so much to be thankful for. And who better to make a wholesome holiday extra steamy than your pal and mine, Tiffany Reisz. Side note, we just realized we've been butchering her last name, and we're appropriately shamefaced. Tiffany, you got us. We've experimented with some self-flagellation in your honor. But now, let's gear up for turkey, cranberry sauce, and of course, getting stuffed with the second in the Men at Work series, Her Naughty Holiday by Tiffany Reisz.
Hello, Melody.
Oh, hi, Erin. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. What are your Thanksgiving plans?
My Thanksgiving plans?
Yeah.
I think we're actually hosting Thanksgiving.
That's exciting.
I think we're hosting a Friendsgiving.
Oh, cool.
At my house.
Yay.
Yeah, it'll be good. Probably like 2 or 3 other couples.
That's so
yeah.
fun.
What are you doing?
Oh, we usually go over to my mother-in-law's house, and it's the best.
Mm-hmm.
We have like a quasi-healthy Thanksgiving, except I bring all the pie because
Yeah.
that's who I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm really excited. Well, I have to make everything myself because we can't do dairy. So I make specialty, delicious, non-dairy pies, and it's the best.
But don't most pies not have a lot of dairy? Like you can make a apple pie with no dairy. Like fruit pies for sure.
Except the crust is usually made with butter, like all the butter.
Oh,
sometimes it's
I forgot
lard,
the butter was dairy.
but usually it's butter. Oh boy. Yeah, so I use coconut oil, and then pumpkin pies are usually just condensed milk. So
yeah,
that's a bit much. So I do non-dairy pumpkin pies too. Anyway, I'm stoked about it. It's my favorite holiday of the year.
Really,
So,
Thanksgiving?
Yeah. I love
Wow.
that moment where you sit down at the table and everyone says what they're thankful for. It makes my heart sing. I'm so corny. But yeah, and I usually cry every time I talk about what I'm thankful for. It's the most. I'm so ready for our book this week because we decided that we had to do a Thanksgiving theme, and we tried one book, but Erin opened it up and it was full of typos. We
tried one that had like a really good title, but then I opened it up and it was a little too self-published, which I am all for indie authors and self-publishing your romance and erotica, like get after it. But this one was a little.
But you still have to edit it.
Yeah.
You still have to spell things correctly. Sorry, not sorry.
So I was like, oh no, what do we do? And so I started like rooting around for some Thanksgiving books. And then I found out that Tiffany Reisz, our old friend, the Men at Work series, of which Her Halloween Treat is the first book, is a series of 3 that are holiday books. So there's Her Halloween Treat, and then there's a Thanksgiving book, and then there's a Christmas book.
So get ready, everyone. Buckle up, because we're going into Her Naughty Holiday.
Her Naughty Holiday.
Which is Tiffany Reisz Men at Work Book 2, Thanksgiving themed. So exciting. At first, Erin was really hesitant to ask because she thought that I was going to be like, we can't do to this author again. And I was like, nope, definitely doing it. I am here.
Because whether or not we do the third one around Christmas time, which I don't know, listener, if you want us to, let us know. Or if you're bored with it, let us know.
You should let us know if you don't want us to.
I'm going to read it either way.
Oh, I'm definitely reading it.
Yeah. So, yeah, so you liked it?
Oh, I really enjoyed this book, yeah. I mean, we were texting because there are a couple of things that usually drive me bonkers town. And once again, I think that I should just join every Tiffany Reisz fan club there is on the internet because she managed to make things that normally drives me insane perfectly charming and wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And we'll get to our text conversation. But was I right?
You were totally right. You were completely right.
Good. Because I was ahead of Melody in this book, so I kept trying to like assuage her fears. All right, so this book has Clover Green is our heroine.
Too much.
Yeah, but I kind of liked it. What ended up happening is all her siblings have names that go with green. So it's Clover, Hunter, and Kelly.
Yeah.
I loved it.
A lot. It's a lot.
And she owns a nursery with 2 locations, and we're still at Mount Hood in Oregon.
Right. Okay. Oregon. Let's just make this clear, everyone. Okay.
I knew you would be like,
let me set the record straight. It is not Oregon. There is no E at the end. It's not Oregon because it's not a spice. It's Oregon. You hit the first O and then you slide through the rest. Oregon.
All right. So here we are in Oregon.
Right out.
Mountain Hood.
Oh, right outside
Hood
of Lost
Mountain.
Lake again. Oh, God. I'm going to reach through the iPad and strangle you.
There's a delicious little crossover, too, with Lost Lake. But anyway, so Clover owns 2 nurseries, greenhouses, where she sells plants. And we open up to her and her 17-year-old assistant, Ruthie, who
is, once again, one of the best secondary characters fucking
fantastic.
ever.
Just
she's
a
the best.
fantastic BFF character. But she's also, like, much younger than Clover, who is 30. And she's her employee, so it's not like quite the friend dynamic, but she's great. Ruthie is
precocious.
Yes, she is a fierce liberal environmentalist. She is a neo-pagan, which those of us who live in that world just call pagans, but that's fine.
That's right.
And she says great things, like she says goddess instead of God. You know, it's wonderful. And what we found out was Clover has gotten an offer to sell her nursery for $5 million, and she must decide on the Monday after Thanksgiving.
It's now Sunday.
Yes. And then in the same instant, we find out that she has been kind of elected to host her family Thanksgiving this year. And she can't even be happy about this offer to buy her nursery because she's so dreading her family coming over for Thanksgiving because her family is awful.
Her family's a living nightmare.
Awful. They are not proud of her. They are mean to her all the time.
They're incredibly belittling. It's awful.
Yeah. And one of the things they're belittling about is that she has yet to find a husband and have children like her brother and sister have. So at some point during this, Ruthie decides that she ought to hire somebody to be her boyfriend for the weekend. And she goes on some male escort sites and finds that Sven is half off this week.
Yes.
Tries to convince Clover to buy Sven for the week.
But then Ruthie's like, on the other hand, I'm going down to LA to spend Thanksgiving with my mom. My dad's going to be all alone anyway. Y'all make eyes at each other constantly and have been for the past year. So why don't you just have my dad be your Sven?
Yeah. They kind of talk about how her dad, Ruthie's dad, Eric, is hot. This gets a little bit rough for me because Ruthie is like full on acknowledging that her dad is like hot and that her mom has mentioned that he's good in bed, which like what is this family that her mom's like?
Oh, no, I was there. My parents were not very open about all of that, but I definitely got enough history. Like there are families where things are very open. So I didn't find it creepy at all because she was just like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's gross, but like objectively, my dad's hot and young and y'all can't keep your eyes off each other. So can you just stop? I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, Ruthie is very like cognizant that her dad is sexy. And she also has kind of noticed that Clover has been kind of eyeing him up when he drops her off for work and that he's kind of eyeing up Clover as well. This is where we find out that Ruthie got the job right after she got convicted of arson for burning down some kind of building that had something to do with factory farming. She's basically an eco-terrorist. And no one would give her a job because of that. And also she's just very weird and political all the time.
And she's got green hair at this point.
Yeah, I think so. She's just like, she's great. Like she's some
so
great
great
one-liners. Like she says she admires male escorts because they're the only men on the planet doing what the goddess intends men to do, devoting themselves entirely to female pleasure.
Yep.
Yeah, and for a 17-year-old, that's pretty good stuff.
Well, and so Eric Ruthie's dad showed up in the nursery with Ruthie and was like, listen, she is a good kid and she loves nature. And I think she could be good at this, but, you know, she's got this background. And Clover saw her potential and took her on. And for that, everyone has been very thankful. And Ruthie loves Clover. I mean, they're like, you know, they're actual friends. And she's like, whatever. So when Clover's like, no, I couldn't do that. You're my employee. He's your dad. It would be really weird. There's also a whole lot of terror on Clover's part about romantic issues, which she gets into later. That's probably actually fueling this more than the I want to respect employee boss boundaries. But when she says, no, I couldn't do that, Ruthie's like, whatever. I didn't want a super cool stepmom anyway. So bye. Get out of here.
Yeah, and Clover, she says, my dad likes you. And Clover's like, why would your dad like me? What do you mean he likes me? And she's like, I mean, he likes you. Why wouldn't he like you? You're nice and you're a goddess. You know, she's always calling her a goddess. It's wonderful. So
Eric shows up to pick up Ruthie and take her to the airport.
Right. And they kind of have like a little bit like a kind of minor, hey, how are you sort of flirtation, but it doesn't go anywhere and he leaves. And then later that night, he knocks on her door again, and Clover answers the door, and he says that Ruthie, after she left to go visit her mother for Thanksgiving, left her cell phone at the nursery and needs him.
She forgot her phone.
She needs him to mail it.
Forgot her phone, and they joke about how it's usually just like surgically attached to her. So how could she have done this? Because Ruthie is the tits.
Right. They start flirting, and I loved the flirting between the two of them.
Once again, it's just snappy, it's honest, it's direct, it is fun, it's great. Yeah.
It's really good. So he is an older man, and he's got like some gray hair and stuff.
He's 38.
Were you, like, into that?
He's got a little bit of salt and pepper.
Older. That's 8 years older than our heroine.
Yeah, totally. And yes, I was absolutely into it.
Okay, so it says he was handsome, ruggedly handsome, with his close-cropped brown and gray hair and his dark eyes that always seemed to be laughing at something, and tall, definitely. And Eric was manly with his buff-colored work coat, his steel-tipped work boots, and his hands always stained with paint or deck stain. Manly without being macho, which she appreciated. She had no time for macho or swagger in a man, no posturing for her, which I liked.
You know what?
So he's
Preach,
a manly
Clover.
man. Yeah.
Preach.
Okay, so they flirt and they're kind of like, hey, you know, we've kind of liked each other for a long time. Like, why haven't we flirted before? Like, this is kind of nice. They're kind of like getting into it. He makes fun of her a little bit for always she wears turtlenecks with vests over them. And this was not written in like the 90s. This was written like pretty recently, as far as I can tell. Right?
No, and I mean, as a person from the Pacific Northwest, it makes sense that you would wear turtlenecks with like fleece vests over it, because most of the year it's pretty cold. Like not most of the year, but especially if you're in an environment like a nursery where a lot of it is open air. Hell yeah, I would be a little bit buttoned up. But once again, it's also because Clover has some body issues and she likes to be a bit more covered up than a lot of other people. Which
usually I don't like in a book. But
no, that's one of my pet peeves.
It ended up being okay.
Yeah. No, I really liked their flirting. I really liked the fact that although she's obviously hesitant and not sure of herself, she still comes right out and just asks things. So at the end of this flirty conversation, she's just like, hey, I was wondering if you would maybe want to spend Thanksgiving with me and my awful family and be my fake boyfriend so that they don't give me hell about having a desert vagina. Right. And he's like, oh, I could fake boyfriend it right up. I'm an excellent fake boyfriend. Sign me up. Let's do this. And then he's like, well, I'd love to spend the night at your house. Or do they kiss in the office, right? Yeah, they do.
Yes, they do kiss. So he's like, you know, we should probably get familiar with each other so it's not weird, so your family buys this. And then, but first, before they kiss, they hold hands, which I really like. Because he like offers his hand to her and then she holds it and then kind of hold hands for a while. And she says, this is nice holding hands. I'd forgotten how nice this was. And she just kind of like stands there holding his hand for a while. And then they kiss. But like, it's not a great kiss. Well,
Oh yeah.
for her, he's like a good kisser. Like he's like, but she's like kisses him and like doesn't move her mouth at all.
Yeah.
So he's got to like kind of make
coax
it
her
happen.
into it.
Yeah. So it's not a great kiss, but he's still very into it, which I like that because he was like,
yeah, he wasn't turned off immediately.
yeah. And so she needs her deck fixed at her house because there's a bunch of kids going to come over for Thanksgiving and she wants them to be able to use her fire pit to make s'mores, and there are a few boards that are unsafe. So before they even got into this flirtation, she was like, would you mind fixing my deck? I can pay you. And he's like, no, I don't want to pay you. You gave Ruthie this job, or I don't want you to pay me because you gave Ruthie this job. So, I'll come over tomorrow morning and fix your deck at 8 a.m. So after they're kind of flirting and they made out a little bit, then he's like, well, what if I just like spent the night at your house and then I'd already be there to fix your deck
More
so
sleep.
early
It's
in
better,
the morning.
It's better for everyone,
Yeah.
really.
And then he's kind of like, and we could sleep together, sexually. And she's like, okay. And then she's immediately like, oh God, I agreed to this. And like, what's going to happen and all this. And,
And he starts
really
cackling
cute.
because he's like, I didn't think you'd actually agree.
Right.
And it's so cute. And then she's like, well, how about this? You can come over, but like, don't assume that sex is going to happen. We can do more making out. We can do more, cuddling and stuff, but don't automatically assume that sex is on the table. Yeah. So he goes home and gets a bunch of his stuff, right?
He's got to do something. Oh, no, he's got to mail Ruthie her phone because he's got to go to the 24-hour UPS store because she's like, mail this immediately, Dad.
Yeah.
So he goes and does that. And he says he'll be there in an hour. Yeah. And then they smooch again and he's like, half hour. I'll be there in a half hour. So she drives home to her cabin in the woods where she lives in this like kind of 1-bedroom small house. And she just freaks out. Like she's trying to hide all her messes. Like it's pretty not messy, but she folds the same Afghan like 5 times to make it not look disheveled.
And then
she can't figure out what
changes
to
her
wear.
Clothes a bunch.
Yeah.
And she settles on a giant Little House on the Prairie style nightgown with a yellow robe over it. And then she's like, oh God, this is awful. I shouldn't wear this. And then he knocks on the door and she doesn't have a choice. She's got to go answer it.
Right. Yeah. And so she answers it. She's wearing like 2 layers of frumpy clothing because she's so freaked out. He just finds this funny and they have a lot more like, I just really liked it.
Oh yeah, the banter is great. And like she shows him around the house and I don't know. She says something to elicit him being like, well, you're wearing
like a sail of a sailboat, basically. I forget what he compares her nightgown to, but it's
oh yeah, so
something big.
She says, he's like, stop hiding from me. And she goes, what makes you think I want to hide from you? And he goes, you're wearing a bathrobe over a nightgown that's got so much material, I could make it a schooner sail out of it. And you're doing that grandma thing where you're holding the lapels of your robe together like you're afraid I'll see your neck or some other unmentionable part of your body. It's very cute, this shyness. And she goes, I really want to be sexy and flirty with you, but if I ever knew how to do that, I've forgotten how. And he goes, you are sexy. And she goes, not like you.
And I think this is where they make the Star Wars joke where she says he looks like Harrison Ford, but with a beard, like a young Harrison Ford.
And then he leans down to her and he goes, I know.
I know.
As a person with a watercolor of Leia up on my wall, I really dug this joke.
Yeah. So he convinces her to put on his t-shirt with some underwear. So she goes to the bathroom, puts on his t-shirt, which smells so wonderful and like cedar and man.
And pure testosterone.
And she puts it on and he's like, very into it. And they start kissing. and the kissing gets really good. She says she's forgotten how intense kissing could be or how terrifying it could be in the best sort of way because her heart's going flitter flutter. And there's a lot of consent here, Melody. I don't know if you want to touch on it, but there's a lot of him asking if he can touch her certain places.
My consent boner was unfurled.
He says, do you want to touch me? And she's like, yes, I want to touch you very much. Can I please? And he says, that's the politest way any woman has ever asked to rub my cock in my entire life. Your manners are impeccable, Miss Green. And so they kind of get to second base and third base. And yeah, so then they round all the bases. She's like, let's do it.
Isn't he fingering her? And then she's like, I want you. Like,
let's
do
going.
This.
And earlier she had mentioned that she's on birth control and she has a latex allergy. So there's a little bit of like scuffle about condoms, but they end up doing it no condom, which I don't know how I feel about that. Didn't really need to have a latex allergy in the book to, like, they could have got a condom.
Yeah, the sexual health educator in me was really just cowering in the corner. But they did at least have a conversation where they talked about, they sort of implied that they had been tested recently. He was like, I'm so clean, it's sad, basically. And we learn in a minute, has not had enough experience probably to get anything.
Right.
But just for the record, listener, and Tiffany Reisz,
don't believe somebody when they tell you that. You don't believe.
No, yeah. Don't do that. But also, non-latex condoms definitely exist.
They exist. Like, they're out there.
They make those for all the people with latex allergies, just like they make non-latex hospital gloves for the people with latex allergies. They could definitely have made this a very safe sex situation.
And the author could have acknowledged it because he says, okay, I've got to go to the UPS store and I've also got to buy some condoms. And she goes, I'm allergic to latex. And he's like, nah, I'm still going to buy some condoms just so that the person at the store will know that I'm having sex with somebody tonight, like as a joke. I'm like, well, just say you're going to get some other kind of condoms.
Yeah.
Anyway. So he's like, yes.
The hilarious thing about him, though, is that when he gets close to, I do too.
When
he gets close to, like when he gets really excited about what's happening, he cannot control the stream of sexiness that comes out of his mouth, and it's usually like pretty dirty,
really vulgar. Yeah.
And so
I loved it
at
so
one
much.
point, she's giving him a hand job and he's like, I want to pound your pussy until like blah, blah, blah. And she's into it. She likes it. And so as they're having sex, he goes, oh my God, you're so tight. It's like you've never been fucked before. And she goes, I haven't.
Because she's a virgin. And he's like, he's a little like,
and so he stops for a minute. And she's like, don't stop. That feels really good. Keep going.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. So they finish and he's like, hi, so do you want to tell me about what's happening in the experience department?
And this is also the point Melody texts Aaron and says, hi, do you want to maybe tell me what's going on in the experience department? Because she's pissed off that we're reading a virgin book. And I'm ahead of her at this point. So I'm like, no. It's okay. Don't worry about it. So they talk about
no, actually, I texted you way before this. I texted you when all of the hints were happening, when we were getting like the little, because there are little Easter eggs in there that's like hinting at the fact that she's. So I was like, Erin, precisely how inexperienced are we talking here?
I believe you texted me all caps, is there a virgin in this book? Which I took a little bit of offense to because, hey, Duchess of Warcraft had a virgin in it, and it was the worst kind of virgin, which was the man. And so don't lecture me about how there's a virgin in this book.
Can I just say that you chose that book too?
I don't.
No, here's the thing.
Allegedly.
I'm not here. Wait, I need to go on the record here. I'm not anti-virgin. I'm anti the virginal trope.
Right.
That is in romance novels.
Right. And they address it very well in this book.
Yes. This is not the virginal trope.
Yes. There are plenty of 30-year-old virgins walking around. I'm not saying like you shouldn't be a virgin
normal.
at 30 years old. And that's totally fine.
Right.
It's just one of those things in romance novels that's like taking the virginity of the
Yeah. Well, and I was really, honestly, after having such a great experience with her Halloween treat, I was really worried that my girl TR was going to let me down. But she didn't. Because, again, this is not the virginal trope.
Okay, so they talk about how she didn't tell him beforehand and why, and how he would have maybe gone after the situation differently had he known. And she was like, no, it was good that you didn't, because then it would have been kind of like in the air and this was so good. And then there's this passage where he's thinking about he kind of likes that she was a virgin. And then he says, this is from his perspective, of course, he could hear Ruthie's voice in his head telling him that he should never judge a woman's worth by her sexual history, that the concepts of sexual purity and virginity were outmoded views that reinforced a toxic patriarchy in America that sought to police women and their bodies. And while he agreed with her, because he knew that was good for him, and also because she made a good point, he still couldn't quite wipe the stupid grin off his face every time he thought about being Clover's first. It had nothing to do, this is important, it had nothing to do with her and everything to do with him feeling like he'd been paid a very high compliment.
And once again, my girl TR did not let me down.
Good. Because it was like, it wasn't about, I got this thing. It was about she chose me and
she trusted me.
He likes her so much. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, it was so lovely.
It was great. So, they go to bed, they snuggle. She's got a full-size bed, which he's like all about. He's like, you can't hide from me in this full-size bed. Mm-hmm. And then she wakes up the next morning to the sounds of him fixing her deck.
Yes.
I was at the table for that. I was on board. I was like, just waking up to the sounds of a man fixing your deck for you.
That didn't do as much for me.
I'm sorry.
But, I'm glad that you liked
she goes downstairs. Yeah. She goes downstairs and he gives her some coffee and he's getting finished with her deck. And they make some great jokes about morning wood and cedar being something that helps sexual drive. I don't know.
Virility, right?
Virility, yeah.
Well, and he immediately starts making plans, and he's like, okay, so I'll just run back to my house. I should be done by this time, and then oh God, you haven't even invited me back here yet. Like, look at me being stupidly presumptuous.
Yeah. And she's like, no.
Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, so would you like to come back?
Yeah. And they have sex on the table, the dining room table.
Well, so he goes down on her in a really great way.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. I do have a passage that I want to read for this section because it's really lovely. Okay, so he puts her on the table and he's like, I'm going to go down on you. And he was like, have you had oral sex before? And she was like, yeah, but I was either too young or too nervous to come, or maybe I could have, but he just quit too soon. And Eric's like, don't worry about that. I am not going to quit until you tell me to stop. Please don't tell me to stop. And she goes, I won't. I want it. And he goes, my 3 favorite words to hear from a woman, he said while pushing her thighs open. And then a little while later.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, we totally forgot when she showed him her breasts. The night before.
Oh my God.
Which is really important.
So right. It's so important. Okay.
So when they have sex, she has sex with her shirt on.
Yes.
And then I don't remember what the conversation was that led
and
to
she
her.
also asks to turn off the lights.
Right. So she basically is like, all right, my body's not that great. And she had made some comments in her internal monologue already about like his body being really like, manual labor, muscular and stuff, and how her body was less than good. And I was just like, TR, like, don't do this shit to me.
Yeah,
like, if she's going to have body image issues, I swear to God. But then what happened was she had breast reduction surgery.
Wait. Can I tell the reveal first? Because I really like the reveal.
Yeah.
So they have sex and she's basically like, he's like, you are so gorgeous. And she's like, no, I'm really not. And he can't fathom why she would think that. And so she pulls up her shirt and shows him her breasts. And that on its own was like, oh, that's really great. Like a woman with body issues just bearing it all. I actually like that. But then he's like, wow, you're really, really beautiful. And she goes, can't you see the scars? And he goes, yeah, of course I can. But like, you're still really, really beautiful. So go ahead.
So she had breast reduction surgery that left her with these scars. And when she had the surgery, she was dating a boy who didn't want her to have the surgery and used his
and who also
Christianity.
coveted her virginity.
Ugh. Yeah. Bleh. Basically was like, I'm a Christian and you're altering your body in a way that God didn't intend, and basically dumped her right after. And then other men had made comments about the scars.
And he's such a hypocrite. He basically just loved her tits, which, I mean, that's fine too. But she was like, altering my body. Did you or did you not have LASIK surgery, sir?
Right, yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's not the same
that's different.
thing.
That's different. Yeah. So, and then, other men have made comments about the scars, and it's made her be very self-conscious, and it's probably led to her still being a virgin, because she doesn't seem to have any like hang-ups about not wanting to lose her virginity. She's gotten these body confidence issues.
Not to mention that she then threw herself into starting a really successful business, which she definitely succeeded at.
Right. Okay, so next morning, that happens on the table.
Yeah.
And then
wait. So, okay, hold on. I have to read this part. Okay. So he had her thighs in his large, strong hands, and she opened her legs wider for him because it felt so good to do it. She realized as she did it that she wanted him to see her, all of her. She couldn't recall a time when she wanted to be looked at by a man. Self-consciousness had kept her closed off and bundled up for her entire adult life. How freeing it felt to simply be naked and unafraid, naked and unashamed.
Aww. So then, after he leaves her house, after that, he calls Ruthie to tell Ruthie that he did ask her out, because Ruthie had been pressuring him for however long to ask out Clover. So he just wants her to know that he's now been on a date with her boss because he doesn't want to hide that from her. And somehow during the conversation, Ruthie figures out, just from like
that
his
they
word
have
choice,
done the nasty,
that they have done sex, and that Clover was a virgin beforehand. Or no, she already knew that.
Ruthie already knew that.
Clover had already told her that. So this makes Ruthie very mad, because she knows that 24 hours ago, the two of them were not even dating. And now all of a sudden, Clover's lost her virginity. So she goes off and she's like, how could you do this to Clover? She is a goddess. You're not worthy of her goddessness. And, she's like, listen, I know Clover. She's too nice to complain. But inside, she probably wishes it had been a little more romantic. But she doesn't know how to ask for what she wants and blah, blah, blah. So she says, listen, Clover has given you a gift. And he's all like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought virginity wasn't a gift, and blah, 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 about puritanical, blah, blah, blah. And he thinks he's really trumped her. And Ruthie's like, no, her virginity is not the gift. What is it? Oh, yeah, he says, didn't you say virginity was a sexist, outmoded concept created by men? And she goes, no. I'm not talking about virginity. I'm talking about trust. She trusted you, and you have to honor the gift of her trust. Honor the gift, Pops. Honor the gift. And he's like, okay, all right, I have to honor the gift. Honor the gift. Got it. So then he goes back that night. Do they spend another night at their house, or do they go to the...
No, so they go back. He goes back to her house. And isn't this when she has spoken to her family? She told her dad.
Oh, right.
She told her dad.
So she called her family.
She's going to have a boyfriend at Thanksgiving.
Right. And they were asking questions that made it seem like that, like she did this, she got a fake boyfriend to please them, and they were still like, oh, what does he do for a living, and does he want kids, because they really want her to have kids. And she says that he has a daughter already who's 17, and her mom seems to kind of scoff at that, and this really upsets her. And she tries to start telling her mom about the offer for the buyout of her nursery, and her mom kind of glosses over it, and she's just really, really upset. Meanwhile, he's thinking about how he can make up for the fact that last night wasn't romantic, because now Ruthie's got in his head that he's like done this disservice to her. So, he's thinking about it and he says, maybe he should have brought her flowers. Maybe he should have lit some candles. Maybe he should have honored the nature goddess, whatever that was. Clover did like nature. Any woman named Clover would have to like nature. And when they talked about their favorite types of sex last night, she said something about sex by the lake. Like they were talking about all the different kinds of sex they might have in the future.
And it's actually really cute because he's like, you can have oral, anal, don't worry, that's not a deal breaker with me. Vaginal, which we've had, and I'd love to have again a few thousand times. But there's sweet sex, gentle sex, rough sex, dirty sex, sex in different positions, sex in different places, like cars and hotels and swimming pools. Not recommended. And this is when she goes, no pool sex? And he goes, I've tried it, but it's like pushing a tennis ball into a coin slot. The lack of lubrication does not work. Maybe in books and movies, but not in the real world. Yeah, so they've talked about all this, type of sex, and he wants to make this special lakeside sex happen for her.
Right. But so what does he do?
He calls Joey.
Chris Stephenson. And Joey answers the phone. And Joey's like, oh, he's in the shower. And I'm like, yeah, he is.
Yeah, he
is. He was the contractor that did some of the work for the Lost Lake cabin rentals that Joey and Chris set up in her Halloween
including the one they live in.
Right. So he asks if he can rent this particular one that has a big window that looks out onto the lake and is right on the shore of the lake. And they're like, sure, for free, because you're the contractor. And I wrote a note that says, the sex cabin, in all caps with a bunch of exclamation points. I'm like, I'm so glad we're back at the sex cabin. Anyway,
so she's been getting a barrage of calls and texts, and her family is just harassing her to get information on Eric. And she's really stressed, not only about Thanksgiving, but now about this new thing. So he's like, listen, we're going to leave your phone at the house and we're going to go to this cabin that I've rented and just take a couple of days away just to hang out and acquaint ourselves with each other and relax. Would you like to do that? And she says, yes, absolutely. Yes. I'm going to go pack a bag. Let's go.
So she packs a bag. They go to this cabin that's only 5 miles away. And they go out on the lake and they canoe.
Is it gorgeous?
Yeah, they canoe on the lake. He's rowing her around. And this is where... So up until now, it's been like, you're my fake boyfriend. We're in a fake relationship. And I was like, oh, God, I don't want this to go on the whole time. I don't want it to be after Thanksgiving and then they decide I want you to be my boyfriend in real life. And that was my naughty holiday, the end. I didn't want that to happen.
Right.
And I was so happy.
But the night before, though, we learn that Eric is definitely on the real boyfriend train, but because he wants to honor her choices, he wants to honor the fact that she's got a lot going on right now. He wants to honor the fact that he's her first, and so she might want to play the field a bit because he would want to if he were in her shoes. So he's like, I'm not going to pressure her into any kind of situation because everyone's pressuring her, right? But then the next day in the canoe...
Right.
It's so cute.
Yeah. She's like, do you want to maybe keep dating after Thanksgiving, and be my real boyfriend? And he's like, sure. And that's it. It's
so great.
I don't know.
Well, and actually what I think she says is, I'd like to keep seeing you if you're open to that. There's no waffling. There's no insecurity. There's just here's this thing I want. I would like to know if you are down. And he inside is doing this cosmic happy dance, but he played it very cool on the outside.
Right.
And then she's like, you said some things, because the night before she had given him this, I don't know. So the whole virginity thing, there were a little bit of a trope things in here because although she says that she had boyfriends and they did everything but the night before she gave him her first blowjob to completion. And I'm like, if you've been doing everything but for months, I just don't know why that would be your first blowjob to completion, but fine.
But when she was doing that, he said some, I guess, very dirty things. And she's like, that thing that you said when I was doing that last night? I kind of like to try that.
Yeah, he's like,
I
no,
blacked
sex
out.
Trance. I don't know what the fuck I said.
I have no idea what I said. And she's like, well, if you can get me back to the house, I'd like to show you. And so he's never rode faster in his life. He's like,
his palms literally start bleeding because he's been rowing so fast.
And then she takes the oars and she starts rowing, which I really liked.
I did like that too. Okay, so hold on though. Remember in her Halloween treat when I was like, I really dislike the fade to black that happened for those 2 weeks where they were boning?
Mm-hmm.
This one didn't do a 2-week split. It was just multiple fades to black. It happened like 4 times. And one of the times was when they went back to the house and she tied him up.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, I would have liked to read about some light bondage in a Harlequin Blaze novel, but maybe that's just me. Anyway.
Yeah, so they do that. There's another one where she's brought some lingerie and he wants to take it off her right away. And she's like, no, I spent good money on this, like at least 1 hour. And so they do some like teasing for an hour, which is kind of nice.
It is. There's an excellent G-spot orgasm in that encounter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then the weekend kind of comes to the end and they watch the sunrise together out the window
and they make sweet, sweet love.
Yeah, on the morning before Thanksgiving. And then he's like, she says something like, nothing could, change my wonderful bliss at this moment, waking up with you in the sunrise. And he's like, I know how to change it. We have to leave and go grocery shopping because we have to make food for your family. And she's like, God damn it. She's so mad. And then I loved this.
I did
too. So then, let's see. So she's mad at him for ruining the moment. And sighing and shaking her head, Clover turned around again and once more headed to the bathroom on the second floor. You're lucky I'm in love with you, she said as she started climbing the steps, naked as the day she was born, or I'd be offended by this boorish behavior. Eric rolled onto his back, smiling up at the ceiling. Knotty pine, beautifully finished. Probably original. Wait, what? And so he goes upstairs into the shower, knocks on the shower door, and is like, hey, Clover, did you just tell me you're in love with me? And instead of being like, because this happens a lot in these books where it's they accidentally tell each other they're in love with it. Like, oh, no. Yeah. Oh, did I let it slip? And she's like, yes, I did. Yes, am. And I didn't mean to say it. And I feel like we spent enough time together. I've done a lot of math on the number of hours we've spent together, and I think it's appropriate. And I just really liked that. It wasn't a mistake. Yeah. She's like, made the decision.
And she's like, and don't tell me that you love me right now because I won't believe you. I'm just going to think that you're telling me because I told you. So tell me whenever you want if you feel that way. And if you don't, that's fine too. Okay, get out. I have to shower.
Yes. Okay. So
they go grocery shopping and they do some cooking at her house.
Right.
And it is wonderful. And they've got a nice little rapport going. She's fielding text messages from her family that are not great, I guess. And
so here we go. Here's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so let's skip to Thanksgiving.
All right. So mom and dad come in first. And dad tells her she's put on a little weight.
Yeah. And mom looks at her jeans and she's like, oh, I didn't know we were having a casual meal. I wouldn't have put in the effort.
Yeah, because her mom's all dressed up. Then...
Oh, and can I just say, this is my nightmare. A formal Thanksgiving at 1 p.m. where 2 people have done all the cooking and everyone shows up in dresses and suits to just eat the meal. Talk about a hellscape of a what? It's not Anglican.
Wasp?
What's that? Yeah, like a waspy... horrible bleh. Okay, keep going.
So that's what's going on with them.
Then Hunter shows up, her brother. Hunter and his wife show up and Clover's like, where are your girls? And they're like, oh, she's with my sister. And then her sister Kelly shows up with them. Oh yeah, they all show up together.
Also no kids.
Yeah, and she's like, where are all the kids? And Kelly, we find out later, has sent them to her in-laws' place because she didn't want Clover to see them because Clover doesn't comment enough on their photos on Facebook. She thinks she's like trying to stick it to her sister because she quote unquote doesn't care about her nieces and nephews.
Kelly's always sending pictures and then being like, oh, Clover, you'll never understand
what true happiness
is until you have kids and stuff. And Clover really resents that because she doesn't say similar things to Kelly about owning her own business or, other things. So she doesn't comment as much as Kelly would like.
Yeah. And Kelly makes all of these veiled passive-aggressive comments that's like, well, you don't have kids and your house isn't childproof.
Isn't childproof. And God, I swear to God.
You don't care about them anyway. And Clover is like she is crestfallen. She is hurt. So she tries to recover, and Eric's like,
also
who
made
wants
a lot
wine?
of like preparations too. Like she made a s'mores thing outside.
They
fixed her
fixed the whole deck
specifically for the kids so they could make s'mores. And Eric brought over all these provisions so that the kids could make bird feeders. Like he set up a craft for them and everything. So she was really upset by that.
And so then Eric's like, who wants
Let's
wine?
get some
Because everyone
wine.
needs wine.
I certainly
Lisa, the daughter-in-law, follows him in and she's like, can I give you a word of advice? Run the fuck away.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm in too deep.
Yeah.
She's like, well, it's definitely your funeral. And this is Clover's sister-in-law. So she takes her wine and starts downing it like a crazy person. And I don't blame her being married to Hunter, the misogynist, horrifying human.
Yeah, he sucked. He made little comments the whole time that were just like, somebody, like Eric's in the kitchen and somebody says that, you know, because he's a single dad, he's like playing Mr. Mom because he knows his way around. Oh, it's Hunter who knows because he knows his way around the kitchen. And he says, nope, not Mr. Mom, just dad, just a normal dad. Dads cook food.
Right. And Lisa was like, see, you can be involved. So the mom starts needling him and needling Clover. And she's like, so tell me about your life and tell me about I heard you have a daughter. And he is very open and he's just like, here's this arson situation. And she's really fabulous. And Clover really helped turn her around. And we've both been really thankful to Clover. And it's one of the reasons that I'm so crazy about her. And then the dad goes, oh, so we can have an eco-terrorist in the family. Isn't that, it's better than what we have right now, which is nothing. And the mom goes, I'm not so sure about that. And Clover freaks.
Yeah, so that's
quietly.
the moment.
No, that's not yet.
Oh, I thought that was the moment.
No. So then she follows Eric out onto the deck and she's like, I can't believe they said that about Ruthie. I'm so sorry. And he's like, nope, we're grinning and bearing it. Remember, it's totally cool. I don't care. Ruthie didn't hear it. She's okay.
Right.
What flips finally is Hunter. She tells everybody about the buyout offer and she's really proud of herself.
Oh, that's what does it.
And Hunter's like, oh yeah? So how much is it going to be, little sis? And she's like, $5 million. And the whole table goes silent because they don't think that Clover's capable of anything. And Hunter says, oh, I didn't know that your business was worth anything or something like that. Or worth that much.
No, worth anything. Definitely worth anything.
Oof. And Clover just flips and she says all of the things that she should have said for the last 10 years. And my favorite part about this whole thing is that Eric is, and you hear all of it. You get line by line her whole tirade and it's fucking brilliant. But my favorite part is that Eric is not immune. She's like, everybody needs to get out of my house. And Eric's like, what? Why do I need to leave? And she goes, my mother insulted Ruthie to your face and you didn't say a word. Get out.
Yep. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, he's not like, pissed. He's just like, okay, I'll leave too. My favorite part of her tirade is that she's like, you come into my house and insult my clothes, my boyfriend, my life choices, my boyfriend's daughter. Eric, you were right. They are a bunch of assholes, except you, Lisa. You're just a pushover. He says, I know, Lisa said and sighed.
And then Clover goes, takes one to know one.
I know. I am a pushover.
Oh.
And then, like, so Eric's like packing up his stuff. Upstairs. He's like, you know, she runs upstairs. She's crying.
She's crying.
Eric goes to pack up and leave because Clover has disinvited them from her house. Eric is unfazed. He knows that this is just a fight and it's not like he's lost her forever, but the family is like, no, we need apologies. She has said some stuff. I mean, during part of this tirade, she points to the table and she's like, I fucked him right here this morning. Like, it's pretty rough.
It's
so they're like,
good.
She will apologize to us.
And Eric's like, no, you will leave. You will leave right now. And then, of course, Hunter starts posturing. And Eric's like, listen, man, I don't want to do this, but I will drop you if I have to. Just leave your sister's house. You are trespassing. We are all trespassing at this point.
Right. And so her mother asks Eric, how can you be so relaxed about this? And stands up and pushes the chair into the table so hard it would have chipped the finish off if Clover hadn't put the tablecloth on. About what? Eric asked. Clover told us off. She didn't shoot at us. Has no one ever told you off before? If not, I should recommend acquiring a teenage daughter. You can borrow mine. Do you think we should put the turkey away or nah, it'll be okay? It's just like, I just like these, like, all she did was yell at us, you guys.
Right. And then he proceeds to just defend her completely. He's like trying to herd them out of the house. They're not leaving. And then he goes on his own very calm, very respectful little tirade of his own where, you know, he just calls them out on everything that he's personally seen. And this is where Lisa finally stands up for herself. And we find out that Kelly, the sister, has also convinced Lisa to send her kids away because she wants to get back at Clover. And Clover's been listening to all of this. And so at the end of his tirade, he's like, I didn't go to college either. Oh, because that's another thing that happens with her family. It doesn't
she dropped
really
out
matter.
of college.
Yeah, read the book. It's really good. But he's like, I'm pretty good in my life. I've got my own business. I've got a daughter. I've got a girlfriend I'm madly in love with. And that's when she comes down the stairs.
Him. Romantic
and she's like,
comedy style.
What?
Yeah.
You love me? And he's like, yeah, of course I do. And then they kiss. And then Hunter goes, excuse me, we're still here. And Eric was like, well, you probably shouldn't be.
Because here's the thing. We're going to have sex here, whether you guys are here or not. Yeah, right now
need to
on
get
this
out,
table.
Unless you want to see some things.
Right.
And then
they do, right? And then they look up and everybody's gone. So they're like, oh, that worked.
Well, he takes her up to the bed and they have sex and it's lovely. And then
there's a line
they kiss
in this
and kiss
that's
and
so
kiss.
good. Yeah.
Is it going to eat food? Because I want you to read that one.
So she says, he said, we did forget to eat, didn't we? Sex first and then food after. Okay, she said, but hurry, I'm starving. Fuck me fast so we can go eat all the meat and pie in the house. Eric dropped his head to his chest and playfully wiped a tear from his eye. What? Clover asked. Fuck me fast so we can go eat all the meat and pie in the house. Clover, I've waited my whole life to hear those words from a woman. Thanksgiving book. It was so good.
Lovely. So lovely.
So yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, she fields an apologetic phone call from her mother that we witness, and then from the rest of the family as well. And she puts her foot down and she's like, you can't keep treating me like this. It's unacceptable. Also, Eric's going to be around for a while.
And so is Ruthie.
So get used to him too. And Ruthie is too. And then they go up and pick up Ruthie from the airport. And it's so cute. And he goes to park the car so that Clover and Ruthie can have their own time. Because Clover wants to make sure that Ruthie really is cool with all of this. And, it's just so good.
Yeah, and then Ruthie, while she didn't have her phone for like 3 days, and she's 17, so she was going nuts. She did some research on the company that's going to buy Clover's nursery and found out that they have all these environmental violations, or they've been dumping toxic shmushmas into the environment, and they're probably buying Clover's nursery, which is called Clover Green's nursery, like it's called Clover's whatever.
Yeah.
Because they're buying her name because they've got to get out of this scandal. And so she decides not to sell the nursery, and everyone lives happily ever after. Happy Thanksgiving.
It's so sweet. Happy Thanksgiving. Ugh. I really enjoyed this book. And once again, it was quick and snappy. And so as a result, we could review it in a quick and snappy way. There weren't like 17 plot lines, which, don't get me wrong, I love. But like, you know, it gets a bit cumbersome.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so good. So... okay, do you have a self-love recommendation?
I do. I have. It's a very literal, well, not literal self-love.
Oh.
Wait, let me just a sec.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I have two. One is I'm feeling incredibly thankful. And so my self-love recommendation is to bite the bullet and do something creative and or fun, preferably with a best friend, because I have had so much fun doing this podcast so far. And I know we talked about it for like 2 years and I couldn't get my shit together. And I'm just, now that we're doing it, I'm really happy. And I love doing this with you. And so
Melody.
My self-love recommendation is to grab a pal and do something that makes you both giggle and have a great time.
Melody, I can't follow that.
Yes, you can.
What the hell are you doing? Can I go first? That's bullshit.
No.
You know what? Mine all along was also that I'm so thankful for your friendship. God damn it. Now I look like an asshole.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You want to know my other self-love recommendation?
Yeah, let's do your other one.
I have another one.
So sweet.
The other one is if you're on Instagram, follow Olivia Wilde because she's a delight.
Mine's an Instagram account too.
Stop it.
Yeah, that's why I was like, God, she's gonna like pour her heart out about our friendship and make everybody tear up here. Everyone, meaning you and me. And I'm gonna recommend a goddamn Instagram page. God damn it.
Well, you know what? Great minds think alike, Erin.
I love you, and I'm also very thankful for your friendship. But instead of writing that down, I have an Instagram page to recommend. The Instagram is at Body Posipanda, which is body BODYPOSIPANDA. And
I really like that account too.
Yeah, the author of that account is Megan Jane Crabb, who used to have a lot of eating disorder issues. And now she is a body positivity unicorn angel who frequently does shakes and shimmies in all of her plus size glory. And just writes these beautiful captions to these pictures, that are just like odes to her fat rolls and just like loves herself. And she is gorgeous and wonderful. And she has recently written a book called Body Positive Power, which I have not read, but I can only imagine if it's anything like her captions on her Instagram page, they are beautiful and wonderful. And she also highlights a lot of other body positive Instagram accounts and women who are out there doing the work. So yeah, it makes my heart happy every time I see one of her posts. So
Yay.
That is my recommendation.
Yay. All right, cool.
All right.
So you know where to find us, at Heaving Bosoms on Instagram, heavingbosompodcast@gmail.com. Please, please, please review us. We love getting reviews of any kind, but really we love good reviews. And yeah, I'm super stoked about life, and I'm glad that we're doing this.
Me too, Mel. All right, well,
keep being a badass.
And love yourself as much as you love fucking fast so you can eat all the meat and pie in the house.
Yes!
All right. See ya, Mel.
All right, bye. And happy Thanksgiving, HBs. Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.